everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I am hoping to read this November. So I just wanted to take a second to say a big thank you to the sponsor for today's video, Book of the Month. Book of the Month is now finally available in Canada, which is so exciting. I've wanted to try their service for so long and haven't been able to because they were only shipping to the US, but now they have officially arrived in Canada and they're doing something special to celebrate. Just like it sounds, Book of the Month is a monthly book subscription service, and they have a selection of books every month that you can choose from. So to celebrate them arriving in Canada, they have a special offer for Canadians. For a limited time, Canadian readers can join Book of the Month and get their first book for only $9.99 using the code Canada. So I will have that information as well as a link to Book of the Month down below for you guys to check out. So I have my two books here that I chose from their selection. So for this month's selection, I chose Someday Maybe by Anya Nwabineli. This actually seems like it's going to be a really emotional story. It's about a girl who had fallen in love with this man. They got married, but on New Year's Day, he actually ended up killing himself. So she is going through a lot of grief at that loss and is being pulled along with some new friends, her tight-knit Nigerian family, and those are the things that are keeping her going. The next book that I have here is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This is a story about a woman who feels like her life has been falling apart. Nothing is really going as planned. Things have kind of been changing a lot recently, and she ends up discovering like there's kind of a renewal in her life. Things have been going better again, but obviously not everything is as it seems. I'm super excited for both of those books, and also so excited that Book of the Month is now available in Canada because I would always see it everywhere and I so wanted it. So I'm really happy about it, and I hope that you guys are excited too. Like I said, I'll have that link down below for you guys as well as the coupon code if you wanted to check it out. And thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. So it's currently the 6th of November when I'm filming this, and I already have actually had a really great, like, solid reading month. I have read 5 books so far, which is so crazy going off of the past few months. I literally had not read anything, and now I've read 5 books, and a lot of that I do credit to audiobooks. Like, audiobooks have been just absolutely saving my life, so I think that's something that I'm going to continue to implement going forward. Like, I've always loved audiobooks, but then I finally like found something that I really love doing and allows me to pay attention to the audiobook, and it's just like, it de-stresses me, gets rid of my anxiety, and everything is just perfect. Like, I sit there and I color these little coloring books on my phone because I like coloring physically, but then sometimes I get stressed out because it's so much work and like I can't get the colors as deep as I want. So basically this app is just top notch. Like, I've talked about it on my Instagram. I'm not sponsored at all, but it's called Happy Color. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I really should contact them to see if they would be interested in a sponsorship because I have just been talking about them with everyone. And I mean, my mom is actually the one who showed me this app and I immediately fell in love. Like, could not stop using it, honestly. So yeah, basically that is all to say that I'm hoping to continue that momentum into the rest of the month. Now, November is always kind of a funny month for me because I'm so busy preparing for Bookmas, which, if you don't know, Bookmas is an annual tradition that I have done every year. I don't know if this is going to be the 6th or the 7th, but I essentially post a video every single day for the month of December, and it's all like Christmas themed, end of the year themed, all of that. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of like pre-filming and pre-planning, and that's why November ends up being like, that's what the bulk of the month is spent doing. I also end my reading year in November, so any books that I read in December will count toward next year. You guys probably don't care, but essentially what I'm saying is that this is the last month of the year for me for reading, and I'm really trying to make my Goodreads goal. My initial goal that I set at the beginning of the year was 100 books. No way that's happening, but I'm really close to 75, and that's been the new goal that I've set. So I'm hoping I can achieve that one. I think I will be able to. I think I'm maybe 5 off or maybe less than that now, but it's definitely like, I'm just trying to have a competition with myself, if you will, and set an achievable goal. So I would like to get to 75. And I have an interesting plethora of books here. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. It's just kind of what I have been gravitating towards, so let's just get into it. So I'm actually going to start out with the 2 books that I'm currently reading. So first of all, like I said, audiobooks lifesaver for me right now. So the audiobook that I've been listening to is Kingdom of the Curse by Carrie Maniscalco. I just started listening to this one yesterday. It is the sequel to Kingdom of the Wicked, and let me tell you, this one gets really saucy. Like, as I was listening to it today, I was like, this is YA? Like, what? So I think this is more in the realm of the way that like A Court of Mist and Fury is YA. I'm pretty sure though, like the James Patterson Presents, that's his YA publishing thing. So like, I'm confused to be honest, but yeah, this is pretty risque. I'm not sure if the series is hyped up on TikTok, but if it's not, I feel like it should be, because it definitely seems like something that TikTok would like. It deals with like wrath and lust and all of that. It's definitely like, it's a really sexy series, but it has gotten like so much more than I was expecting. And there's like witchcraft. It's set in Italy, but it's back in like, I don't even know what time, but it's back in like, it wouldn't be Victorian times, but you know what I mean? Like around that time period, I believe. I don't think it ever actually like really specifies, but yeah, I'm not too far into the second one yet, but I mean, it's already kind of like, wow. there's a lot of really steamy moments so far, and I think it's just like, maybe it's because it's YA, so I'm not expecting it, because I have been reading quite a few romances lately, but I think because it's YA and it's so unexpected, I'm like taken aback by it. Like, I was literally sitting there listening to the audiobook, and then I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I was so shook by it, but it's not bad. Like, it is enjoyable. Not too far, so I will continue with listening to this one. I do love reading this series around this time of year because it is like dark and creepy, and I feel like it's very fitting for around now. As far as a physical read goes, I have not physically read a book in what it feels like forever. Like, I just kind of, there was so much going on that my brain could not focus on a book. I had no desire to pick up a book, and rather than like forcing myself to and then ending up in a reading slump, I was just like, okay, like it is what it is. Moving on. So I just hadn't really read anything, and now I've been easing my way back into it. So I have read a graphic novel that completely blew my mind, but it made me really excited about reading again, which is good. So I'm trying to like implement it into my schedule, but I've been trying to kind of fix everything because I felt like everything was like all over the place, didn't have a schedule or whatever. So basically the point is we're getting there, but I want to make sure that I'm like physically reading still. Not that there's anything wrong with audiobooks, it's just, I don't know. Anyways, I'm currently physically reading The Looking Glass Wars by Frank Bador. So I have actually been gravitating toward just whatever, and that has been kind of nice because I feel like I've been like out of touch with everything, out of touch with my books and what I have to read. So I've just been going to my shelves and being like, okay, what do I want to read? And I find myself gravitating towards a lot of books that I've actually had for such a long time, and I end up finally getting to them. So there's quite a few, and this is definitely one that I have had for so long and have really wanted to get to. So I sat down with it for a little bit this morning before I had some work to do, and I was able to like read a fair amount pretty quickly. I'm not entirely sure what this story is about. I've never actually looked at the synopsis, so I was just like, it's an Alice in Wonderland retelling. I've heard lots of really good things about it. Like, lots of you have recommended it to me over the years. So I was like, we're just gonna go for it. I believe it's steampunk, and it has like, I mean, there's photos in it. So like based on that, I feel like it seems kind of steampunky, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It is interesting that like, I guess the card characters, they kind of make me think that it's steampunky, but such an interesting take on the story. So it's essentially like the idea that there's this myth and then what actually ended up happening. So the actual Wonderland story that like we know is totally different than the reality. So it's kind of a fantasy reimagining of that. Like I said, not too sure so far, but like I have only read like 20 pages, so I really didn't get the chance to sit down for very long to read this morning, but I was getting into it for sure. Okay, and then the rest of these books, there's just no reason for it. So Iron Widow by Ziran J. Zhao. This book has been all over the place, and it's mostly like, I feel like I haven't really seen it that much. I guess it was really hyped up on TikTok, which I didn't really know. That was kind of before I was on TikTok, and I just, when I started working at Penguin, this book was everywhere, and it still has been like such a talked about book. So I'm like, okay, I need to know, like I need to know why it's so good, why so many people are talking about it. So it's definitely been one that I have had my eye on since I started working at Penguin, because because I've wanted to know what all the hype is about, you know? It's just so popular and everyone is talking about how much of like a success it is. So I remember that I did include this book actually on like one of my most anticipated releases for the year videos before I ever started working at Penguin, but it was a really cool concept, but it's definitely like, I always feel like I have the hardest time explaining fantasies. So this one is definitely no exception. It's like this world that is at war, I believe, and there's these like chrysalid, like these creatures, and it's only, I believe, like females. Okay, so they can be pilots, but they're a concubine pilot. So they're supporters that are paired up with male pilots to power up chrysalises, and it's like the highest honor or whatever. So I really don't know what to make of this one, to be honest. It seems like kind of like an industrial sort of fantasy, like the flying thing. I don't really know what it's going to be. I just know all this hype has made me so interested. Next is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. This book I picked up this past spring, and then I had heard like such good things about it. I hadn't really heard that much, and then Hannah read it and like loved it, and now I have been very intrigued to read it ever since. This is a romance, and it is about like this reality TV show, this reality dating show where one of the contestants ends up falling for the producer. So it just seems like it's going to be really cute. I have actually quite a few books now on my TBR that are kind of matching a similar synopsis to this one, but I think this is the one that I like want to start with for sure. Next up is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. So I have been trying to get to so many books, like while I'm kind of in this like silly, goofy mood with my reading, where I'm just kind of picking absolutely whatever is catching my eye, which I've always done, but like I feel like it's more so lately. I don't have like external opinions that I'm aware of that are influencing that. I don't know what this tangent is that I'm going on, but anyways, my point is I'm just trying to get to all those books that like I have been wanting to read for so long, and One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston is for sure one of those. This is by the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, and they actually have another book out now, which is a YA book, and I had kind of wanted to read that one, I Kissed Shara Wheeler, but then I was like, no, I need to read One Last Stop first, because that one like came out before, so I would feel bad just like picking up the most recent one. This is a sapphic romance set in New York City, and it is about a girl who discovers that her subway crush is actually a girl who has time traveled from the 1970s. So I don't really know what to make of that, like kind of a different magical twist on things that wasn't there in Red, White, and Royal Blue. So we'll see how I end up liking it. Next is another book that I have talked about wanting to read for so long, and that is The Bones of Rune by Sarah Raleigh. When this book came out, I was like, this concept sounds so cool, like amazing, and I was all over it, and then it just sat on my bookshelf, as often is the case and often happens, but I want to stop that. Like I want to actually read this book. This is about a tightrope walker. She's an African tightrope walker living in Victorian London. So she's often like gawked at because of that. But she has this secret, which is that she is unable to die, which obviously like as a tightrope walker is pretty interesting because I mean, that's a very high stakes situation. But I didn't realize when I was so excited about this book before that there's like another element to it where there's, I don't know, there's some sort of extra thing. Yeah, there's this committee which is to help people choose a leader for the upcoming apocalypse. So I think that kind of twist on things has kind of made me less excited for it, but I still want to read this one. Like there's a reason I was so excited for it, and I'm not going to let that one thing like kind of turn me off from it, because that doesn't mean anything. I don't want to say that's like a bad idea. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's just, this happens often where I think a book is going to be one thing and then I realize it's not at all what I was expecting, because maybe I was misremembering the synopsis, and I just like to go into books not really knowing a lot. But obviously like for my channel and talking about books for you guys, that doesn't really work. So I do have to know things, or like I've just heard from someone else and I just misunderstood what the synopsis is, whatever. That is like a surefire way to get me to not like a book. I can think of a few that I thought they were going to be one thing and then they were something else, which like wasn't necessarily bad. It just wasn't what I was expecting, so it kind of ruined it for me. But yeah, anyways, next up is Blood Like Magic by Lyselle Sambury. This is a book that I have like, it's once again one of those books where it's been capturing my attention so much recently, and I can't really explain why. So it's a fantasy, and it's about a girl who has to, it kind of gives me Raven Boys vibes because she has to kill the first person, like her love, but she's never been in love. So she essentially has to find someone to fall in love with to then kill them. And obviously that's like a very complicated and shitty situation. So I guess we'll see how that one is going to play out in this book. I haven't really heard all that much about it, but I'm hoping it's gonna be good. Next is These Violin Delights by Chloe Gong. I don't even need to say it. I've been wanting to read this book for so long. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling about rival gangs set in 1920s Shanghai. Like, I'm all over that, and I have other Chloe Gong books now that I really want to read, but I haven't gotten to because I need to read this one first. I feel like it's disrespectful if I don't read this one first when I have it and really want to read it. So I'm waiting, I'm biding my time, but I think that soon I am going to do it. Just everything about this sounds so cool. Everything about her other books too, the concepts are absolutely amazing. So like, I'm all over that. I just need to like finally sit down and freaking read this book. There's reason it has been so hyped up, I'm sure, and I want to be in on the hype. Kind of switching gears here, next up is Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angris. So this is a book that I picked up, I don't know, this past summer or whatever, but it definitely seems like the kind of thing that I've been gravitating towards recently, because as much as I've been going for whatever, I also have been going for kind of like darker reads, because the fall season, that's always what I'm kind of wanting to read, is something that's a little bit darker and spooky, but also academia fits that. And I don't know if this is a dark academia, but I do know that it's an academia story, and it deals with art students. It just seems super intriguing. I think this cover is part of what pulled me into it as well, but we'll see. Okay, and the last book that I have here, I feel like I talked so much in this video and I really apologize for that, but the last book that I have here is Outrun the Moon by Stacey Lee. I hadn't read historical fiction in a while, but I have read a few recently, and I've been so happy to be back on my historical fiction bullshit, but this is the last one by Stacey Lee that she has out currently that I haven't read yet, and I've just loved her historical fiction so much. Like, she writes diverse historical fictions, different points of view, and it's just so refreshing, because historical fiction definitely does have a problem with that, especially like particularly YA historical fiction. So this one is set in San Francisco in 1906, and it follows a Chinese main character, and the main character is trying to like break out of poverty and get a good education and everything, and it's about her life experiences there. Okay, so those are all of the books that I am hoping to read this November. Fingers crossed I can keep up this like reading momentum that I've gained, because it has been so great, so helpful. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to click that subscribe button, because I will be getting back to posting videos regularly and consistently. I promise, now that I am like home and not traveling all over the place and not dealing with 2 weddings, I'm going to be back to working, which is going to be great. So thank you once again so much for watching, and I will see you in another new video soon. Bye!